So now I just got off the phone with my roommate, David Yolton, who was around and witnessed it, from me going from having the nickname of the fire dancer, because I used to run through bonfires really fast when I was drunk, to a literary scholar. And that humanizing change is something that a liberal education can do for all of us. It makes you aware of something other than yourself and the idea that there's a bigger world out there. I want to give a pitch for a liberal education and say that a couple days ago, my wife, who is a full professor here at UW-Eau Claire and the head of technical services and collection development at UW-Eau Claire, brought a book home that she thought was interesting, called the China Mirage, and it is basically, it was a study by a guy named Thomas Brady, kind of a political conservative, about the evolution of Western policy towards China for the last couple hundred years, and the role that the opium trade had in the development of connections between China and the West, and how the opium trade absolutely devastated China. Well, I read this book on my Amazon Kindle, speech to text, which I'm lucky enough to have the ability to make a theater in my head so I can listen to this at 4X. And I found out that behind just about every great Western family fortune is the equivalent of a great crime. For example, the Franklin Delano Roosevelt's family connection to the Delanos through his mother established a connection between an American family who had made their millions on the opium trade in China in the 1840s, and then brought back the connections to America, established family connections with FDR. And the book takes us right up to the opening of China in the late 70s, mid-70s, by 72 by Nixon actually, and covers some of the events that led to the development of the Second World War. I don't have enough time to cover this author and his fine books, and I'm kind of flying ad hoc. That's a horrible metaphor, because I just finished turning in an independent study proposal with the head of the economics department, and I am in touch with a Chinese woman, Bovi Kuei, who got me thinking about this. But last night I was explaining to Jan that the 20th century was a horrific history in terms of the number of people that were killed, the crimes that have taken place, the devastation of the environment, and yet we had a young Chinese woman student stay with us who was interested in an economic program about asset management for people, and I'm working with her. And even after all of the historic, terrible things that China has been through, the West has been through, we've all been through, here we are alive, working together, sharing an American culture. And it was funny, when I brought her over here, we just decided to help her. One of the first things she did was buy a cell phone made in China, sold in America for cheaper, because she had to have the top of the line cell phone, otherwise her fellow Chinese students would make fun of her. Well, what that exemplified is an idea that's set forth by an institutional economist, who Tom Kemp, my associate, my friend who I hope gives me the independent study, set forth the idea of conspicuous consumption, which involves a product having a utility is kind of a cultural icon past its sheer economic or practical utility. And as we have these changes taking place in this very different world we're living in, we have to reach in and look for continuities, and we can do this by working with academics who can give us a theory to tell how things might make sense. Now, if you look at China now, the China that we have, the China that we do business with, the China and the Vietnam that we do business, was the end state that both Ho Chi Minh and Mao wanted when America was their allies during the Second World War. And it was a shame that we had to fight so hard in these wars because we misunderstood each other. And now in the 21st century, I mean, we really can't afford, with more and more countries being nuclearly armed, to have these misunderstandings. I mean, you don't get to take back if somebody leans on the wrong button and launches all the missiles. Well, this is probably one of my most frenetic presentations, but I feel really energetic. And my friend David a couple of my friends have said, liven it up. Maybe I'll do the next one in a bear suit. Well, I think if you're an author, you probably want your books reviewed by me. And if you're a funder, I could sure use some help, because I want to keep doing this and adding a few graphics. Because I think this is sort of a vehicle, a potential for international understanding. And I'm going to wrap it up right now and say, please comment, please support. We're going to do some more of these. And I had a great time today, so let's call it quits.